Hersheypark is the self-proclaimed sweetest place on earth. Understandably, you'll find chocolate and sweets here, but Hersheypark is about so much more. This is legitimately one of the best amusement parks in the world. This mega park features an elite coaster collection that includes 2 different hypercoasters, a full-fledged water park, and a charming atmosphere you rarely see from a park of this scale. Find out everything you need to know about Hersheypark in this review. Hersheypark originally opened back in 1906, making it one of the oldest amusement parks in the United States. The first ride was added in 1908, and the first roller coaster came in 1923. Starting in the 1970s, Hersheypark started to add themed areas. While the lands couldn't match the detail of a Disney park, each one did have its own distinct feel to it. But Hersheypark's growth has accelerated over the past 2 decades. In that time, the park has added 2 different hypercoasters, one of the best launch coasters in the world in Storm Runner, another unique Intamin Looper in Fahrenheit, the Boardwalk water park, and a brand new entrance. And that's just a handful of the park's additions. Located in Hershey, Pennsylvania, the park is near the famous Hershey chocolate factory. While you can't tour the actual facility anymore, you can visit Hershey's Chocolate World. This is a separate attraction adjacent to Hershey's entrance. Some people come just for this attraction. It's free to enter, and surprisingly, you don't even have to pay to experience the signature attraction in Hershey's Chocolate Tour. This is a nearly 10-minute long dark ride detailing the entire process how chocolate is made and packaged. It's educational, but fun at the same time. There are some paid activities as well, such as a 3D show and a tutorial how to make your own candy bar. And the complex also has every single Hershey candy imaginable, including some rare ones and some giant ones. Just look at that 5-pound Hershey bar, for instance. Hershey's Chocolate World is typically open before and after Hersheypark. For the lightest crowds, I recommend heading here at opening. Plus, that'll allow you to be one of the first guests in a Hersheypark when it opens. In the evening, the dark ride can have a longer line, but as long as you hop in before closing, you can get on, so that works pretty well. Back to Hersheypark itself. The arrival experience begins by navigating the giant parking lot. The ring road can be confusing because it not only services the park, but it also accesses the giant center arena and also leads to the exit, so just watch for the signage. Through the 2018 season, Hersheypark had a quaint entrance past some shops, but it was no longer feasible with the park's attendance, so it was completely overhauled in 2020. You now enter through a grand entrance in Chocolate Town. Between the Giant Kisses fountain and Candymonium, it establishes you're visiting a major amusement park. This complemented the park's pre-existing areas. Hersheypark is really light on theming, but the park is gorgeous and oozing with charm. A lot of amusement parks this large feel corporate. Hersheypark still has an intimate feel to it. You can tell this park has been around a while, and the owners want to respect that history. The park is very well maintained between the landscaping and coloring. I am always surprised that Hersheypark didn't use their candy IP more, but their latest additions have finally started to do this, which I think is a brilliant idea. The midways are also bursting with energy. Part of that is because of how some of the pathways are super narrow, but it's also because the rides are stacked on top of each other. Hersheypark isn't a small park by any means, as it covers 121 acres, but it is fully developed and packed full of rides, so Hersheypark has to get creative when squeezing in new attractions. The best example is in the Hollow area, where rides travel over each other, and the Midway. It adds a ton of excitement and kinetic energy as you walk through the park. I don't like this park's layout though. It's probably the biggest downside with the park. Hersheypark basically forms one giant dead end. Chocolate Town in Midway America is a 15 to 20 minute walk at a brisk pace. Having gone to this park for almost 2 decades, I'm familiar with all the pathways, but I remember this park being pretty confusing to navigate as a first timer. It's not always clear where a pathway leads to, and because of how many rides sprawl about, the location of their entrances is not always clear. Prior to the pandemic, Hersheypark had really good hours. It was easy to get night rides. The park was routinely open past nightfall most summer nights. The park has scaled back its hours since then, and I think you need at least 1.5 to 2 days to ride everything. Fortunately, your day ticket sort of grants you that. Every ticket to Hersheypark during the main season includes the preview plan. This allows you to enter the park 2 hours before closing the day prior to your visit, or 3 hours if you're a hotel guest. This is extremely valuable time. This allows you to knock out the attractions at the front of the park on preview night. The most important ones to accomplish are Candymonium, Comet, Great Bear, and Reese's Cup Fusion. I recommend finishing the night with the latter because it's routinely the worst and slowest moving line at Hersheypark. That dark ride can take 1 or 2 hours most days to get through the line. On your main day, do not start with Candymonium or Comet unless you have early entry. Those two rides get swamped immediately after opening due to their proximity to the main entrance. Candymonium's wait spikes to 1 to 2 hours after opening most days, but if you return in the mid-afternoon, the ride often has a minimal wait because so few people navigate back to the entrance at that time given the park's layout. If you do have early entry or suite start, you can get in an hour early in peak season and usually marathon Candymonium or Skyrush a few times. The higher tiers of season passes and Hersheypark hotel guests get this benefit. On your full day, you want to head towards the back of the park to knock out Laugh Track and Fahrenheit as soon as possible. These two rides can get hour waits most days due to their low capacities. It's also wise to hit Storm Runner early because that's another popular coaster. If you have any intentions of doing the water park, do that as soon as possible. The Boardwalk gets absolutely mobbed on summer days and has some of the longest waits I've seen at any water park. I've seen 30 to 45 minute waits just for the Lazy River, which is almost unheard of at any other park. The number one slide to hit first though is Breaker's Edge Water Coaster. In the second half of the day, you can re-ride your favorites at the front of the park, or if you didn't have preview plan, execute the prior plan on this day. The reason I haven't mentioned Skyrush yet is because that coaster oddly is one of the shortest lines most days. It's a coaster enthusiast's dream when the best attraction at a park has one of the fastest waits. I think a lot of guests find the ride's intensity and restraints too uncomfortable. This is one of the highest attended regional parks in the United States, but I am usually able to ride all the major rides at Hershey a few times each day using this approach. I usually visit on summer weekdays, weekends early in the season, or the November weekends, and I've had great luck with crowds. Saturdays in the summer and Halloween season are notoriously busy though, so I recommend avoiding those dates if you can. Hershey does have a paid fast track skip the line system, but it's very pricey. It can cost up to $150 to $200 per person per day. I've never used it, but I've always noticed the merge points for the attractions are pretty far back compared to most parks, so you're still going to have to wait 15 to 30 minutes per attraction. Hersheypark's operations are a mixed bag. The staff is always super friendly. Dispatch speeds are okay. Some rides do a good job, while others are slower than similar rides elsewhere. One of the biggest offenders is Candymonium. It is rare to see a B&M Hyper stack, but Candymonium does it regularly. Now part of that seems to be because it's less accommodating than the other B&M Hypers out there though, and quite a few people struggle to fit each cycle. A key consideration before visiting this park is the weather. Hersheypark rarely closes due to weather, which is a good thing, but they will not run Storm Runner, Skyrush, or Candymonium in the rain, even if it's the slightest of drizzles. The rationale being is for the comfort of their guests. So while the park may be much quieter on a rainy day, it is hard for me to justify visiting when I know their 3 best coasters will be closed. Wild Mouse will also close in these conditions, but that's not as critical to me. Candymonium is also the most temperamental coaster when it comes to wind. The ride has a wind monitor atop the lift hill, and I've seen this ride close when ground wind speeds hover around the 12 to 15 mile per hour mark. This is particularly problematic early and late in the park season. Hershey will reopen these rides as soon as conditions permit. At Christmas Candy Lane last year, they finally opened Candymonium one day for the final 15 minutes when the wind finally quieted down. Hersheypark offers free cubbies on all the ride platforms, but they also have free lockers posted at Candymonium and Skyrush if you want your belongings more secured while you ride. Now let's talk about the ride lineup. Hersheypark features a whopping 72 different rides. That is incredible. And it starts with the coaster lineup. Hershey features 14 different roller coasters. The newest and most popular is Candymonium. This Balzer Mabbeyard hypercoaster is a floater airtime machine. The first half is some of the best sustained airtime you can get on any B&M. And since this coaster doesn't have a mid-course brake run, it maintains its speed and pacing until the very end. The second half has some funky hills and turns over the entrance plaza, but I like the mix of visuals and airtime. This is among one of the most re-rideable coasters out there, between how fun it is and how smooth it is, and I talk about more in its own review. My favorite coaster in the park is Sky Rush, the Intamin hypercoaster. This is one of the most intense rides in the world. Sky Rush is downright violent, and I appreciate the tenacity. The first drop and camelbacks offer some of the strongest ejector airtime of any coaster. The valleys and turns deliver crushing positive Gs. And then there are some stangle dives and twists that offer crazy laterals as well. The restraints leave you super exposed, enhancing the thrill factor, but they can pinch your thighs super tightly and cause you discomfort. I have a separate review for this ride as well. Storm Runner is the park's lone launch coaster. This Intamin hydraulic launch coaster features one of the best launches in the world, blasting riders from 0 to 72 miles per hour or 116 kilometers per hour in just 2 seconds. And unlike most accelerator coasters, this ride is not a one-trick pony. It features a few powerful airtime hills, highlighted by that large top hat, plus 3 great inversions, which is highlighted by the ultra disorienting and snappy flying snake dive. Check out my review for this ride if you want to hear more about this short but sweet coaster. Fahrenheit is a bizarre looper from Intamin. This layout seems more like something Gerstlauer would do. You have an ejector airtime filled beyond vertical plunge, followed by 6 inversions in a super compact footprint. The small trains charge through the layout, particularly in the back-to-back corkscrews and the intense final bunny hill. Great Bear is the unique B&M invert. I mean, just look at how this coaster starts with an elevated helix. What other coaster does that? Unlike the other inverts that feature a self-contained layout, Great Bear sprawls over Kissing Tower Hill and through the hollow, and the inversions in this one are very intense. You really get pulled through the inversions, getting a mix of positive Gs, laterals, and whip. Sidewinder was a Vekoma boomerang that opened in 1991. The ride has the usual layout with a satisfying first drop and 6 forceful inversions, but Hershey has made 2 key improvements to this ride. First, it received new vest restraints that eliminated headbanging to improve guest comfort. Second, the ride was transformed in a Jolly Rancher remix for the 2022 season, with a new green paint scheme and a fancy tunnel with some effects. The park also features 3 different wood coasters, including the first one from Great Coasters International. While Wildcat was important to the industry and has a solid twister layout with some decent airtime, the ride is pretty darn rough. I find the experience okay up front, but it's quite violent as you make your way further back in the train. I would love to see this ride get GCI's new Titan track or a full RMC treatment to remedy it. Lightning Racer is another GCI with a similarly twisty layout, but this one tracks smoothly, and it also features 2 tracks for an exciting racing element. Lightning Racer is one of GCI's tamer coasters, but the ride still has some moderate pops of airtime and the fun visuals as you compete with the other train, which I speak to in its own review. Comet is the park's oldest currently operating roller coaster, and it's still an enjoyable one. It's probably the park's smoothest wood coaster, showing how well Hershey maintains this ride. The first few drops deliver some really nice airtime in the back car, but the ride fizzles out in the second half due to a harsh trim brake on the second turnaround. One of the most admirable elements about Comet is that it features a low 42-inch height requirement, making it one of the first wood coasters younger guests can try. In a similar mold, Super Duper Looper is a Schwarzkopf looper with an equally low height limit. I love how this coaster uses the terrain and interacts with other rides, but it spends most of its ride slowly meandering. However, the ride's iconic vertical loop does deliver some very strong positive Gs. Trailblazer is a tame arrow mine train. It never builds up much speed, nor does it do anything too exciting, but it is scenic as it weaves its way through the wooded hillside, and it works well for younger guests. Wild Mouse is one of the better mock versions out there. This one has minimal braking, so the hairpin turns have even stronger laterals than usual, and with the added speed, you may get a little pop of airtime or 2 in the second half. Laugh Track is a Mauer indoor spinning coaster. The blacklit visuals change with the seasons and add to the chaos of the experience. I like the initial drop, especially if you're going backwards, but the rest of the layout is heavily braked, so the spinning is less intense than clones of this ride elsewhere. Then the true kiddie coaster here is Coco Cruiser. This Zamperla creation can be enjoyed by kids and adults alike, but younger guests are the ones who will appreciate the ride most. On that note, Hersheypark does an excellent job with their kids areas. The park has clusters of kiddie rides scattered throughout the park. Pretty much every section has a ride for all ages and thrill levels, so families can progress through the park together. I love when parks take this into consideration. For adults, there are plenty of flat rides. Most are your typical spinning rides, but there are 4 of note. First, you have the Carousel. Moved to Chocolatetown in 2020, this classic PTC carousel is over 100 years old. It is a marvel between the wood-carved horses, the lighting, and the Wurlitzer band organ. Second, you have the Whip. But this isn't a classic version. Rather, this is a modern one built in the 1990s. It is super loud and not as wild as the older ones, but it's a unique attraction nonetheless. Third, you have the Claw. This chance frisbee is a short cycle, but it offers decent airtime on those max swings. Fourth, you have Hershey Triple Tower, which is a trio of S&S drop towers. The 2 smaller ones in Kisses Tower and Reese's Tower used to offer the best ride, as these double shot towers gave shockingly strong ejector airtime, but they've been toned down in recent years. The largest of the bunch is Hershey Tower. This one stands 19 stories tall. It blasts riders to the top with a very forceful launch, but the drop back down is pretty weak. The park also has no shortage of observation rides. My favorite of the bunch is the Kissing Tower, a 250-foot or 76-meter tall observation tower. This ride has been unfortunately closed the past few seasons, but the aerial views of Hershey are astounding, so I hope it reopens. The monorail gives a unique tour of both Hersheypark and the nearby Zoo America. Then you also have a Ferris wheel giving great views of the back of the park, plus a train ride around Pioneer Frontier, and a classic car ride that kids love. The one dark ride within the borders of Hersheypark is Reese's Cup Fusion. This Sally dark ride offers a mix of screen-based and physical targets, which give riders no shortage of things to shoot at, and the laser sights make it very easy to hit things. The ride has a corny story, but the park goes all in with it, and the candy theme fits the park. I really like this shooter, and I'd ride it more if its capacity wasn't so woeful. For water rides, you have 2 notable ones. Coal Cracker is a rare Arrow Hydro Flume. This flume variant features an elevated layout along the hillside, a sizable drop, and a surprise pop of airtime on this little bunny hill before the final splashdown. While you may come off Coal Cracker with just a spritzing, you will get absolutely drenched in tidal force. This is a supersized 10-story tall Hopkins Shoot the Chute ride that may make the largest splash of any amusement ride. I do miss the park's old Rapids ride though. Canyon River Rapids was my favorite Rapids rides anywhere, because it had a strong assortment of rapids, waterfalls, and geysers. You would come off this ride soaked. This ride was removed for an expansion to the Hersheypark Boardwalk water park. The best and most unique attraction at the water park is Breaker's Edge Water Coaster. This water coaster holds its speed well with the saucer turns and hydromagnetic uphill segments, but it doesn't have as much airtime as the other Pro Slide water coasters. You then have a mat racer, a tower of tube slides, a water play structure, and the usual assortment of pools and lazy rivers. I mentioned earlier this area gets slammed, and it's the main reason I skip it when I visit Hersheypark. But because of how far it is from the main entrance, you can make a lap of all the water slides before crowds arrive if you head there once it opens. Beyond the rides, you also have 2 notable animal encounters. Zoo America is an 11-acre zoo included with park admission, or you can purchase a ticket just for the zoo alone. This zoo features 75 different species and 200 individual animals. There are larger zoos out there, but few that are better inside an amusement park. It's a great way to take a break from the crowds midday. The main park also has a sea lion show where you can see a few tricks and learn about the animals. Moving on to seasonal events, Hersheypark typically has a family-friendly Halloween event, but they're teasing a horror-based one for 2022 so it'll be interesting what comes of it. For winter, they have Christmas Candy Lane. The park looks amazing as it's decked out in lights. I particularly love the Noel light show that plays alongside Spring Creek. While all sections of the park are open, the ride lineup is extremely limited. The only major coasters open are Candymonium, Super Duper Looper, Wildcat, Wild Mouse, and Laugh Track, but they're all weather dependent. If Candymonium is able to open, it's awesome being able to accrue night rides on that coaster in frigid conditions, and the trims are almost guaranteed to be off. But I prefer Six Flags Great Adventures holiday in the park because they have more attractions open and will run things in any conditions. Moving on to the food, Hersheypark shines in this area. As you may know, I'm not a fan of candy or sweets. Anyone with a sweet tooth raves about the Simply Chocolate king-size milkshakes. These drinks are over the top and expensive, but where else can you get a milkshake like that? My favorite snacks in the park are the crab fries at Chicky and Pete's and the homemade pretzels you can find near the Skyway. You can also get these at the bakery at the exit, and Hersheypark also sells their own version of cinnamon bread there, but no idea if it's as good as Dollywood's. For a full meal, your best bet is the Chocolatier if you can actually get a reservation. This restaurant is located just outside the main entrance and it is extremely popular. Try to put your name in as soon as possible. It's quite common for them to run out of reservations by the end of the day. The venue is known for chocolate-covered entrees, but I can confirm the meat they serve is delicious and juicy on its own. If you'd prefer to eat outside the park, I have two recommendations. Duck Donuts has a location in downtown Hershey, and they make the world's best donuts. They're taken straight out of the fryer in front of you, and then they decorate them for you. For lunch or dinner, I strongly recommend Primanti's. They're just 1 mile away and open until midnight most days. They are a Pennsylvania staple, and their sandwiches are amazing. So do I recommend Hersheypark? Absolutely. This may be the best park in the Northeast. This truly is a destination park as it offers something for everyone. Coaster enthusiasts will find one of the deepest lineups anywhere as it contains a whopping 14 different roller coasters, including some top tier and very unique ones. I really think this may have a top 3 coaster lineup in the country. But beyond that, you have a strong mix of supporting rides to appease all interests. Then beyond the rides, you have a solid zoo and the chocolate-related items you cannot get elsewhere. Day tickets for the amusement park can cost between $50 and $75 as of 2022, but I think the price point is worth it given the quantity and quality of the park's lineup. While I strongly recommend the park, I cannot say the same for the Hershey hotels. They are extremely pricey, and I do not think the rooms and amenities are worth it. I stayed at the Hershey Lodge a few years ago, and while the small indoor water park was a cool perk, the walls were shockingly thin for a hotel that was that much. You could hear everything from your neighbor's rooms in the hallway. Plus, the room itself wasn't anything fancy. There are plenty of other hotels in the surrounding area I would recommend instead. You could stay there and buy a fast track for the same price. And if you're planning a coaster trip, Hersheypark is nearby some other notable amusement parks like Knoebels and the aforementioned Six Flags Great Adventure. Eastern Pennsylvania really is one of the best spots for a coaster enthusiast, and Hershey may be the crown jewel. So those are my thoughts on Hersheypark, the sweetest place on earth. What are your thoughts on this Pennsylvania megapark, whether it be about the park itself or the nearby chocolate world? Do you love this park as much as me? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.